Crazy.
Do you want me to get rid of the sunnies? Actually?
No, you can keep
Okay.
those sunnies on. I think you look Terminator cool in those sunnies. Are the sunnies the answer to your success this year?
Not at all. I've played in sunnies for years.
Say, but it feels a little bit like since we last played, which whenever it was,
that 2021?
It was like the catalyst for
20,
everything. I taught you everything that I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this year has been by far my best year.
Yeah. Up to what in the world now?
I think I dropped back down to 25 after.
Yeah, that's what I saw. 25th in the world.
Yeah, which is still a bit surreal, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's gone well this year.
Yeah.
Probably
2 wins.
2 wins, a bunch of,
3
and
seconds.
arguably could have had a couple more.
Yeah,
I got really
yeah.
close a couple more times, obviously, and won in a playoff in the Dutch Open.
Out of the wins, most special win?
Oh, Dunhill, easily.
I mean,
to be fair, Rack at the start of the year was, I think that was really important. That set up the rest of the year. It made me, be able to play a lot freer. It takes that pressure off having status and stuff like that, which is, it's always a hard thing as a golfer, right? You feel like you start each year completely new, and you can lose your job at the end of the year. Whereas at least winning early in the year kind of guaranteed a couple of years in that regard, and it certainly made me feel a bit more comfortable in contention. And it'd been a pretty tough couple of years, 20 and 21. To get a win early this year just sort of freed everything up.
So your scoring average this year has been the lowest it's ever been since your years on the European Tour, or DP World Tour as it known now. What's the reasoning? Just playing better golf? Are you doing anything different?
Not really. I don't think I'm doing anything different in that regard. Probably the thing that's made the most difference has been the putter.
Okay.
Not the putter per se, but just putting better.
Yeah.
I went to an arm lock a couple of years ago, and that's certainly been a bit more consistent, especially from the shorter stuff. And for me, it was never about being necessarily needing to be one of the best putters. It just had to not hurt me.
Yeah.
And I think this year I'm sort of in the top 40 or 50 in strokes gained putting. So, and
that's a raise from where you've been before?
Yeah, I mean, I think the previous couple of years I've been more around the 150 than the top 50. So, there's been definitely a bit of that this year, that taking advantage of the good shots I had a lot more. The short game's been really tidy this year.
That's good.
My iron play's been really solid, and to be honest, the one that you kind of think of as my strength with the driver, it's not been bad. I think I'm still sitting in the top 30 or 40 in strokes gained with the driver, but the other stuff has kind of made its way. It's got a bit better in that regard. So
that's good, because your driver's obviously, anyone who doesn't know, Ryan, you're known for being very long.
Yeah,
you're one of the longest hitters out there.
Still in the top 10 in driving distance this year, I think.
Yeah. And are you doing anything to try and push that on, or are you just happy with where it's at?
No, I'm happy with where it's at.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I need to chase it or anything like that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of guys do that, obviously, after what Bryson did a couple of years ago, and for the most part it made guys a bit worse than better. There might have been a little bit of a increase in performance early, but I think it's something that's pretty hard to sustain. Yeah. And it's I think it does more damage than good in your golf swing in that regard.
Yeah. Well, genetically, you've been, I mean, like, your legs are thicker than my body kind of stuff. You've been quite lucky.
Yeah, I've got rugby players' genes, obviously, so that does help.
Feel like your approach play's been better, you said?
Yeah, I think this year I'm in the top 5 in approach play. Wasn't so good at Valderrama last week, but
where it needs to be, like on the money round there.
Yeah, that golf course is you can hit good shots and get punished for it, and I think that's why most of the tour loves it and hates it at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, generally the approach play's been really good this year, and that give yourself a lot more birdie chances, and then now that the putter's been a bit better as well.
Worlds collide, don't they?
Yeah.
Lovely. And have you noticed that your approach play has been better? Are you coming off the course thinking, or are you looking at your stats and over time you're seeing it's better? Or are you coming off the course thinking, I was hitting that close today?
A little bit of both. I mean, I don't feel like it's been, personally don't feel like it's been top 5 on tour, kind of, still a few bad shots here and there, but the good's been really good. I think my wedge play's been really good this year.
Okay.
For the most part. So, a lot more shots from that sort of 70 to 100 yard range that are that are going to a decent birdie chance, inside 10, 12 feet. I think that makes a massive difference
Cool.
to the shots, to the approach play shots gained stat. And
Yeah.
but then over the year it's been pretty consistent in that regard as well. That the approach play's generally been a pretty strong part of my game, which has been nice.
So last two questions. One's going to be talking about PGA Tour status and what kind of chances you get, obviously with the new alliances with DP World and PGA Tour, which we'll come to in a second. First, just a quick note, something to pick up on what you said back on the tee. Do you start each year thinking, like, there's pressure? Am I going to keep my card this year? That kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I think no matter how good you've played the year before or anything, there's always that little bit, where golf's a funny game. You feel like you're 2 swings away from being really good and 2 swings away from being really bad.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of friends this year that have had tough years from kind of nowhere, and you've seen that. You see it every year on tour. There's some guys that you look at and go, how did they lose their card? And and then vice versa, you get some guys that kind of come from nowhere and become superstars, and that's just this game. And
it's interesting. I do think people at home maybe don't realise that so much. They think of certain names and they'll look at your name and your results over years and think, oh, yeah, worried, he's going to keep his card. And that bit of hunger's there, or kind of pressure's just riddled still through everyone's game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're not necessarily specifically thinking about it in that regard, but it's always something at the back of your mind. You just know, there's no job security in this game generally, and you look at someone, like Ian Baker Finch potentially, who won an Open, and was a top 10 player in the world as far as I can remember, and a few years later it's kind of all gone, and that's a pretty extreme case, but it has happened in the history of golf, and certainly no one seems to be exempt from that. Rory, Tiger, all of those guys have had bad years, maybe not bad enough to lose a card kind of thing, but still had struggles, and that's just what this game sort of gives you, and you've got to be able to ride that, and you've got to be able to deal with that little bit of pressure. And again, this time of year for us is one that you can see guys that have struggled throughout a year, and then all of a sudden throw in a couple of top fives to keep a card, and that's
such a relief.
It's relief, but it's seriously impressive as well when you see people do it. That it's it's not often that in sport, especially where you feel like 1 week is playing for your livelihood. Golf's certainly one of those games that gives that to you.
Absolutely. So talk to me about the PGA Tour alliances then. So I asked you earlier, but I've got it wrong, and lots of other people are not quite understanding it. You're not exempt for PGA Tour through the new alliance, that it's the top 10 who aren't already exempt can get PGA Tour cards from DP World Tour.
Yes.
Because it's actually this season coming for the next season that will qualify. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I think
you've peaked too early.
Yeah. Well, I would really have liked it to have started this year, because I think I probably would have locked that up in June. But I think, as far as I know, it's for 23 for our tour, starting 24, not starting in 23 for the PGA Tour. So,
and what does it mean to you, PGA Tour? Like the idea of that being a reality, so your card in effect is, going to be secured on a different tour. Also, what does it mean for the other players? I mean, it must be quite an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, it's a massive opportunity. I mean, there's always been a pathway there. It's just not been official, right?
Yeah.
Alex Noren, Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton. I mean, they're recent, relatively recent guys have done it. Matthias Schwab's done it.
Yeah.
Matt Wallace has done it, and they're very recent. But that's been the pathway. There's been a pathway to the PGA Tour, getting in the top 50 and trying to play your way on from there, which is kind of what I'm going to try to do a little bit next year. But to have an official pathway now for that top 10, not otherwise exempt cards, I mean, that's huge. I think. Obviously, we may lose our top 10 otherwise exempt players at the end of the year. But you're certainly hoping, if this was the case for me, those guys would come back and play some DP World events, and I think it also helps us strengthen us from the bottom up. We become a tour that people really want to get on because of that. Obviously we've always been a tour that people want to get on, but now we might get some guys, instead of going to Corn Ferry or
Yeah,
try
yeah,
to play
yeah.
Latin America, to go on Corn Ferry to get on the PJ Tour. They come via the Challenge Tour and the DP World Tour. So
Yeah.
I think overall it strengthens the tour, and I think you can just hope that the top players do come back. The ones that have got a card do come back and play some DP World events, because I love it over here. I love the DP World Tour, playing in Europe. And I certainly wouldn't want to give that up to play in the States, even though being based in New Zealand, the US is a lot closer. I certainly hope most of my peers would be in the same boat in that regard and go, well, we still want to support. The DP World Tour feels like our home tour. We still want to support that in that regard, and I think it's a good thing going forward. And hopefully we get some guys that have done what Tyrrells, the Tommies, the Alex Norrens have done out of it, and become world-class players, and become big names when they come back and play DP World events, and can contend on the PGA Tour.
Absolutely. Well, what a great year, and hopefully it continues. And you will get DP World Tour. I'm sorry, PGA Tour starts through your world ranking as well, won't you? Which I'm sure you'll make use of as well.
Yeah, that's certainly the plan for next year. My schedule looks a little bit different in the first part of the year. Still play the Middle East events and stuff, and then hopefully play some of those top 50 events early next year. Sort of Bay Hill, the Players.
Yeah. Have you played the Masters before?
No.
So you're in, aren't you?
Well, I don't think I can drop far enough out by the end of this year to drop out of that. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. Schedule for me next year will be very different, but it'll be very exciting to be able to play some of those events that I've
dreamed of.
From New Zealand. It was always on early in the morning, so I used to watch all of those events religiously, basically. So to get a chance to play in a couple of them is going to be pretty awesome.